Welcome to It's Hard So No, a podcast designed to answer online discourse regarding video game development, where most people tell you it's hard, so no. Me and my co-host Cream here get game developers on and industry vets to explain the nitty-gritty to you of how games are developed. And today we have Bluedrake42, creator of Operation Harsh Doorstop, on. Hello, Connor. Do you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell a little bit about Operation Harsh Doorstop?
Sure. That's my name, Bluedrake or Connor. And yeah, we started this project a while ago. We basically just wanted to create a tactical shooter that people could have in order to play if there was nothing else on the market that was going to be free and have mod support and have the ability to host your own servers. Because as you guys know, the whole stop killing games thing, it's because a lot of these games have planned obsolescence. And, recently they've been shutting down, servers for all sorts of other games, from Battlefield 2 to Bad Company and what was that one game that EA made? The Anthem just got axed. Oh my gosh, it's so bad.
Nasmr's favorite game, by the way.
I wanted a sequel.
After we just kind of kept having that happen, we decided, you know what, we're just going to make our own game and have it so if everything else eventually goes down, we'll at least have this. Because I was more of a tactical shooter YouTuber at the time, so I was like, well, I need to have at least one game that I can know that I can put my time and energy into that isn't just going to poof disappear at some point. And that's what this is. So it's just a tactical shooter that has mod support, that has dedicated servers, that doesn't cost anything, because as far as I'm aware, I still don't think there is a free tactical shooter that has custom servers and mod support. I can't think of anything. And it's been a while now. And at this point, I don't think there's ever going to be one. I'm pretty sure this is going to be, because there's a lot of modifications like Project Reality for Battlefield 2 and stuff like that that are free, but they're based on either abandonware or in some cases they just kind of are ripped. You can't put a game like Project Reality, which is technically a mod, on Steam because it's still EA's intellectual property. So we wanted to make something that was completely intellectually property independent, but was still free and still had mod support. And to date, I think we're the only people that have done that. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's because I was thinking while you said that, I was trying to think, oh, what are games? Because there's games that are free but not with mod support, like something like
well, and they're all, I mean, look at Delta Force and look at Battlefield 6 even. Those are going to end. They are structured in a way where there are no dedicated server files. There are no, if those ever stop making money at some point in the future, they will be shut down. And we see this a lot. I mean, there are some games that last longer than others, but you look at what was Shroud's game that he was working on, and that didn't even last.
Spectre Divide. Yeah, I played that.
And you know what the craziest thing is, though, is they actually made it. They made a game, and whether it was good or not, who cares? People still invested money into that, and now it's gone. So it's they didn't have to make it so it would be gone. They could have released the game and left it out there, but the investors are at this point where it is more profitable to kill the game, which is insane. Because I personally believe the reason for that is because if you leave a game out there that is still of a certain quality, it will compete with other games that are making money, and people will play that instead of the IP that you want them to focus on that is actually generating income. That is the primary issue. So I'm a little bit more of I believe in the whole stop killing games thing a lot. I'm a little bit more of a pessimist, though, because I think there's two problems. I think first off, the executive desire to kill games is too great. And also, unfortunately, people keep voting with their wallets for studios that are doing that, even knowing that they're doing that. But yeah, I mean, to date, every free tactical shooter game that I've seen is planned to be obsolete at some point in the future if it's not cash flow positive. And I can't think of another free game other than mods and stuff that has mod supports and has private servers that allow people to host their own servers. So yeah, I don't know. The closest thing is there's a couple of Red Orchestra mods that you can download, but they're still mods. Yeah, other than that, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you get some that are free, like you said, Delta Force, but you can't modify that game. I mean, that one is notorious for having anti-cheat software that embeds itself,
and it's very
into the
invasive,
kernel
yeah, as well.
Yeah, it
So
embeds into the kernel of your PC, right? So
we've been debating, because there are some people that are like, oh, we really, really want anti-cheat, but I've basically said that I will never put any invasive anti-cheat in our game. I'm a little bit at this point, I might be convinced to be swayed on that, but if we implement it in OHD, we will only make it so it's optional. So it's like you don't have to have it installed. Even then, I still might not do it. But the fact that there are games like Delta Force right now where it's like, because imagine if they just had it so there was like a launcher and you could just launch with it or launch without it. And if you launch without it, you just can't play with the people who have it, like they have it, you know. But you could still at least have the option. You know, it's like some people. I don't know if did you guys see the whole T thing recently?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, because everybody's like, oh, just trust us. Like, we're not going to lose your information. It's like, dude, that stuff happens every single day. My Facebook just got hacked by some group that somehow got through my 2-factor authentication. And like with AI and stuff, dude, it's going to be getting easier and easier. Have you seen the UK just put out that whole like facial identification thing, and it's like rolling out for every dude. I was prototyping the other day. I was like looking into it. I was like, dude, I bet I could just freaking deep fake like my face and just like get through that. And it's like you can
somebody took Batista's game, like Dave Batista's game model from WWE 2K25 and was able to use that, like a picture of it, to get past the facial recognition thing.
Honestly, it's one of the reasons that I've been pulling back from like the influencer space, because it's getting to a point where having pictures of my face and videos of my mannerisms and how I look and behave is too much of a risk. I have people right now, TikTok / Bluedrake42 is not me. The biggest Drakelings page now, which they hacked and took over, is also not me. And what they do is they take my face, and I mean, it's not even particularly uncommon now. People can just like deep fake anything. But it's like, if they know what I look like day to day, they can get, I don't know, it's going to be crazy. All of this invasive anti-cheat, all of this stuff, people are going to pay for it in very problematic ways. And I don't think they're going to realize how bad it is or how bad the consequences are going to be until like 6 months or a year from now, and then by then it'll be too late. You know, it's oh well. Sorry, not to be too Debbie Downer. So, anyways, fun stuff.
Yeah, fun stuff.
I'm gonna go down the gloom and doom rabbit hole too fast if you let me. But yeah. So just to get back on track, this interview, like, are you guys primarily interested in games that are kind of like developing in, like, I know Nasmr, you wanted to talk about the whole stop killing games thing, and like, is it possible? Is that why you guys are interested in OHD?
Well, we did.
A little bit of both, I think.
Yeah, our last episode was stop killing games related, and if we can get into that, we can. But the other things as well is like the development side of things, of like how you conceptualize in your head and what, you know, bring it into is it Unreal, if I'm right, or is it an Unreal Engine? How did you like start making it, getting it going?
Honestly, I think my development team is more notorious and has a reputation of just throwing crap at a wall until we figure it out. Like that really, and especially since we started much earlier, because there's a lot more indie studios now than there used to be, and there's a lot of other like content creators that are like starting up games. And I think nowadays there's a lot more resources on how to make certain things. Like there's all sorts of marketplace assets you can get now, where it's, you know, you can just go in and figure out how like all of these first person shooter controllers and systems and, you know, actors and stuff like that work. Back in the day, there wasn't nearly as much as that. So there was a lot of trial and error. And I mean like a lot. It was just us throwing ourselves at the wall, trying to figure out like how things worked. We knew that we knew the vision of what we wanted to create. We were like, all right, we want to make a tactical first-person shooter that we can use for our community, but we didn't really know how to do it. So we basically just kept trying random things until we found stuff that worked. And granted, you know, we have our programming team and we have our asset development team and we have our level design team, and they're all working in completely different fields. And some of them, you know, like the programming team, they don't necessarily know how to make models. The model team doesn't know how to write scripts, you know. The animation team doesn't know how to, you know, build levels and stuff like that. So there is a lot of compartmentalization. And for me, my role primarily is to know enough about everybody's job that I can do some stuff by myself, but I'm more am there to orchestrate everybody's ability and make sure that they're all working on things that complement each other, so they're not working on the exact same thing that's going to be redundant, or the things that they are working on are actually going to be able to fit together. And I think as Unreal Engine continues to become, I mean, honestly, you want to go down that rabbit hole, there's two conversations to be had here, and honestly, one is kind of worthless. There's the what game development was 5 or 10 years ago, and there is what game development is now. And I would say, especially with AI now is, in fact, I'm about to release a video today, because I don't know if you guys know, I just got my master's in studying data science and stuff. One of the systems that I've been working on with a team is, and this is actually not just me, there's others. So before anybody gets mad at me, just know that there's other teams that are doing this too. And it's actually, we've also structured it in a way where it's not like IP theft. So it's all like utilizing like MIT licensed animations and models and everything. But we built a system where you can literally just type in the type of game that you want, and there's a whole AI agentic system that will build the entire 3D first person shooter game for you. And the fact that that is possible now is going to change a lot in the coming, like that is kind of a whole separate conversation, quite frankly.
That's huge. Like if you can just type in a prompt,
you can type it right now. Like I'm going to be actually uploading the video, I think, later today. It was a partnership that I did with Fiverr. Yeah, you're at this point now where you can write a single thing. You can say, make me a first person shooter game, and it'll make the entire game. Now, oh man, the implications of that are fairly staggering, and still, like, you know, I'm sure you guys have been watching. Do you guys remember a couple years ago when everybody said that, like, you know, nobody was going to watch like AI generated videos, and now you go on the YouTube Shorts page and it's like
everywhere.
That's like all it is. We're about to have the exact same thing happen to the games industry, like straight up. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know.
Yeah,
but I will say right now. Yeah, I don't know which conversation do you want to have? Because we could talk about OHD, but if we're talking about game development now and the future, this is kind of a thing that I've been trying to get more people aware of. I'll just say
we can have both conversations.
Let's have both.
We want. Yeah. We'll start with your game, and then we can move on to the AI stuff.
So Operation Harsh Doorstop is built in a much more classic version of Unreal Engine. So we're utilizing Unreal Engine 4, and quite frankly, with a lot of people complaining about performance issues that Unreal Engine 5 has, and also since our game is kind of, you know, it's sad, but our game is almost retro at this point, because it's like it's based on Battlefield 2, and in many ways it even looks like Battlefield 2. It's not like, we're not really making it to be like the most photorealistic cutting edge game. We're probably going to stay on Unreal Engine 4 for a while, just because it's highly performant, so it can run on the equivalent of a potato now. Maybe like 10 years ago, that potato would have been like the highest end thing, but we're getting to the point where the market has shifted so much that we're thinking about sticking on Unreal Engine 4. And Unreal Engine 4 is significantly more of also like a retro development workflow. So Unreal Engine 5 is coming out with all of this new technology. They've got like Nanite now. They've got all of these. I mean, Nanite is crazy, because Nanite is like, you can take like a high poly model that has just not been optimized for gaming at all and just throw it in Unreal Engine and it'll just work. Like, you were not able to do that in the past. Like before, there was this whole freaking art to, like, you know, optimization and creating like LODs and like all of this stuff. And with the latest versions of Unreal Engine, they are cutting down the workflows for a lot of that stuff by just like exponential. I mean, I would say a lot of the stuff that they're doing is actually also AI enabled as well. So that's probably one of the reasons that's happening. There's just like little kind of like smaller usages of AI. But Operation Harsh Doorstop, much more traditional, much more kind of like a old school development project, and it'll probably stay that way for a while. because even with like the AI stuff that I'm going to talk about, you kind of have to structure a game engine in a very specific way in order to allow AI to interface with it, of which Unreal Engine 4 has just not been built with that in mind. So Operation Harsh Doorstop is like very much still labor of love, fully like made by like hand, 100% created by just people. My dog is freaking
Oh,
out.
it's all good. Yeah, so just where like
It's crazy.
You were talking about Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah.
So I assume you guys have kind of looked a bit at what it would take to get your game from Unreal Engine 4 to 5. Are there any like big difficulties that would come with doing that?
Well, so I have a lead programmer, and obviously there are certain people that are more specialized for that question than me. He is more of a full-blown engineer. He doesn't make models, he doesn't do animations, he doesn't, do levels. Well, I'm sure he could if he had to, but he specializes a lot in like that and kind of C++ and like those kinds of things. So what I'm going to say is basically more or less what I know by speaking with my programming team, but there's multiple different ways that you can basically upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. We've actually been looking at a way where you can actually upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 without upgrading to Unreal Engine 5, because Unreal Engine 5 is more or less like a massive catalog of features and systems and functions and all sorts of stuff. Now, with the Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5 migration, you don't have to upgrade everything. So like, and we've been kind of debating on doing that, where it's like we could upgrade to Unreal Engine 5, where our SDK would have the Unreal Engine 5 interface, and there would be like lots of improvements to kind of like the workflow and stuff like that, but it wouldn't support things like, say, Nanite, or it wouldn't support things like, say, like the whole ray tracing system and stuff like that, because that is more of a fun. Now, that's something that we could definitely still support, but there's a twofold thing there. First off, we would have to upgrade the engine, but that's not just what we'd have to do. We'd also have to go through every single asset and update the assets as well, because a lot of the assets function fundamentally differently in Unreal Engine 5 than they do Unreal Engine 4, because, take Nanite, for instance. Like, Nanite is like a completely different system for handling like level of detail, more or less. And if you have all of these, assets that have been specifically structured for Unreal Engine 4, where you have like this classic LOD system, you have to go in there and basically undo all of that. Now, again, for us, we could always just upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 and just not use Nanite, but then why? Like if you're going to upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 and then disable all of the things that make it Unreal Engine 5, like, then what's the point, right? And there are also like a lot of bugs, and there's a lot of, we're not a high budget, multi-million-dollar like team. So I feel like for a lot of the high budget teams, there's a lot of things that they can do with Unreal Engine 5 that they basically not only fix a lot of the bugs themselves, but they can develop workflows that dodge some of the problems that Unreal Engine 5 has, in terms of like performance or otherwise. We're kind of at a point where not only do we not have the budget to develop those kinds of things, but on top of that, whenever you upgrade to such a completely, like right now, we know for a fact that we can support at least 64 players. We know for a fact that our maps can like run at certain frame rates and stuff like that. If we were to update to Unreal Engine 5, maybe everything would be the exact same, but most likely not. And you're not going to be able to even know what the problems are until you do it, and then you just sit there and you just play test it constantly to figure out what the problems are. And that's resource intensive. Like literally just doing that, like just upgrading and then figuring out what is wrong and then fixing those problems is very time consuming. And at this point, especially, again, I made this game for free. I kind of Operation Harsh Doorstop is kind of a social experiment. Sorry. It's kind of a social experiment because it on paper is all of the things that people say that they want. It's like, oh, you want like mod support and all of this stuff. But and that was one of the reasons that we made it free as well, because we were like, well, if we make it for free, and all of these streamers and influencers and all of these people would be able to use this to kind of like make money, build their communities, make content. Honestly, after seeing how the industry has gone. I think it's kind of it's not a failed project, because we're going to finish it and there's going to be a demographic of people that enjoy it. But the social experiment aspect of, can we bring together a group of people who make a living covering video games and create something that is like for the community? I think I've kind of proven to myself that's people make too much money getting paid by Delta Force. People make too much money getting paid by all of these games that are doing the exact opposite of what everybody says they want. And too many players are in on that, where they're willing to shell out all of this money for things that traditionally they dislike. So when it comes to Operation Harsh Doorstop, we built it in a specific way. We made it free. We made it have all of these features. But the trade-off for that is, since it's not a $30 game with a bunch of skins, our resources are very limited, right? Like, so, and that's the craziest thing, dude. I don't think you guys know, or anybody really knows, how much money even low-priced paid games on Steam makes. Like, there are games that are like $10 that are a first-person shooter and only have a couple thousand reviews, and they've made like $5 million. It's insane. We've made a few 100,000. Like, I don't think we haven't hit the million mark yet. I don't think. I don't even think we're close to that. But we have to be very careful about where we allocate those resources, because we don't have a bucket of money to just throw at the wall and fix things. A game like Squad very much has buckets of money to throw at the wall. But you can even see, even with their upgrade to Unreal Engine 5, that has been like, every single time they run a playtest, there's just like some issue that even they couldn't have anticipated. So it's like, there's just a lot of trial and error that you have to do when it comes to. Let me ask you this: why are you asking that question? Do you have like other people that are interested in upgrading their game or something like that? Or
no, it's just something that I thought of when you mentioned you're on Unreal Engine 4 and going to Unreal Engine 5, and I have no experience really using
I'll say
Unreal
in
Engine.
Theory, it should be simple, but in practice, it never is. Unreal Engine goes out of their way to try and make upgrading the engine as easy as possible, but the more that you work on a game within a specific version, the more problematic it is to upgrade to the next version, because the more systems that you modify and the more things that you change, like, let me put it this way. If I made an Unreal Engine, 4.25 project, and I put in a single chair, right, like a chair model, and everything else was the exact same, and then I upgraded that to Unreal Engine 5, simple, easy, no problem. But if I make a game in Unreal Engine 4 that has like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of labor and work and custom code and all of that stuff, and then we move that to Unreal Engine 5 now, like that's just, you got 50 billion lines of spaghetti that you've got to reconnect to this new big ball of spaghetti. And it's, yeah, man.
It sounds to me like it becomes like plumbing, where it's like, I'm going to go fix the faucet on my sink
or anything like that.
Toilet exploded.
Yeah. And that's a very good way to look at it. 100%. Yeah.
See, that's because that's a good explanation then, like, for any potential layman like ourselves, who would be like, why doesn't the game just update to the new Unreal Engine 5 or something like that? Why don't they just update? Why don't they just get the new model? It'll make things so much easier. Well, this is kind of like why we're doing these episodes, is so that developers can say, there's the LODs, I think it was, you said, all the LODs you'd have to redo, the lines of code, the unforeseen problems that could occur.
And I would say the main problem is that as an industry, we still haven't really figured out what the best way to make a game is. So it's like all of these systems that are introduced, like Nanite. Nanite is just fundamentally a completely different concept for everything when it comes to like displaying models and like and you look at RTX, like RTX is just a fundamentally, because I still remember like 7 years ago when I was covering like the first prototype ray tracing systems for lighting, and I was like, well, this is never going to scale and become like a full, because it was so CPU intensive, and now we just have RTX and it just freaking works, and you're like, wow. But the thing is that like that changes everything, because like back in the day, you had people where their entire job revolved around light art. And the thing is like, you know, look at a game like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike, have you ever noticed in like Half-Life where if like you move like a box, the shadow is still there even though you move the box or something like that? So that's like baked lighting. And baked lighting is basically you're simulating it outside of the game in the developer environment one time. So you just simulate where all the shadows, because it's like it's too CPU intensive to do that in real time during the game, right? So it's like you simulate that and then you bake the lighting where it's actually painted onto the textures. And then you can have maps where it's like it looks really good and it looks realistic, but it's not real. Like it's Insurgency Sandstorm did this. One of the reasons Insurgency Sandstorm looks so freaking amazing, even though it came out a while ago, is because all of their maps utilize like really advanced like baked lighting techniques where they can create the illusion of like really, really good lighting, but you can't change that map. Like you can't have like a dynamic day cycle because you would automatically see that. And that's one of the reasons that Operation Harsh Doorstop doesn't look as good as games like Insurgency Sandstorm, is because all of our lighting is like, it's real-time lighting inside of Unreal Engine, but it's way more simplistic. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because the person who made Insurgency Sandstorm, who did all that baked lighting stuff, when RTX comes out, they kind of lose their job. Because now with RTX, like that whole freaking art form that evolved, where you're like, there was people that got really, 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 really good at doing this like very specific niche baked lighting like aesthetic. And then RTX comes out and it's like, okay, well, my job is not fucking needed anymore. So it's like there's this whole art form that just disappears. And every single time that there's a new update to Unreal Engine, it's like a lot of that stuff happens where you have artists and engineers and all of these people that have like perfected this way of doing things in a more like, you know, retro work, like a tool set. And then this new system comes out that basically negates everything that they've done. That's the funniest thing about AI, is because people complain about like AI stealing jobs. And it's like, dude, the new update from Unreal Engine just stole like 2,000 people's jobs, because you have all of these things that people used to do, like Nanite, dude. Like when you had people where their job before, you like they'd go in and they'd like one of our generalists, like the main thing that he did is he'd go in there and he'd like change all the poly counts and create all the LODs, and then Nanite comes out and he's like, well, I'm out of work now. Like, but I mean he's a generalist, so he does lots of other stuff, but that's basically what you have to be. Honestly, nowadays I don't know a single developer that only does a single thing. Like 20 years ago, you used to have very clear roles and everybody did a very specific thing, because each of those jobs were very work intensive, but also very consistent. So it's like all games were made in a certain way. Nowadays, everything is moving so fast that I don't know very many people that have decided to specialize in any single like skill, because they're afraid that skill is just going to be made obsolete by a new tool that just drops. And that's why, again, going into the AI stuff, now all the AI stuff is coming out. I know a lot of developers where they just have to start researching that, because they're like, well, I need to know how all of this works, because I don't know if you know anything about UMG. UMG is like Unreal Engine's user interface design system, and I hate it. I hate it so much. It's like I get what they were trying to do, and I understand why they have it the way that it is, but it's like it's very manual. Like unless you're coding in C++, and quite frankly, even if you're coding in C++, that's actually kind of a worse way to do it. UMG, it's like you have to go in and it's a little bit like Photoshop, but it's like, or more like Figma or something like that, I guess. And you have to go in there and like manually edit stuff. Dude, all of the AI stuff, I had an AI system that I was working with the other day that's basically a UI designer, and you can just type in what you want and it just creates it. And I can do the equivalent of like 10 hours of UMG work in like 30 minutes now with that stuff. So there's new stuff that's coming down the pipeline now that even the developers I work with are eyeing, and they're like, yep, that's going to change everything, even stuff that's not AI. So yeah, it's a very, right now, games development is the most chaotic it's probably ever been, and honestly I see it only getting more that way, which is exciting, and also a little bit scary. But it also is, you know, as these things continue to improve, it's going to lower the bar of entry where almost anybody could start getting into game development. But then you're going to have the problem is, you know, if everybody's making games, then do games have
Who's
any value?
buying them?
Well, yeah, who's buying
Yeah.
exactly? And that's something that I've really had to think about a lot, especially when I was getting my degree. And I was like, dude, it's going to get to a point where there's going to be a billion. I think that there's something to be said about like copyrights and stuff. Like, look at Disney. I think that here in the near future, copywritten intellectual property is going to play a much larger role because it's going to be like, okay, everybody can, like, let me ask you this. If I made a Star Wars game right now, how long do you think it would take before Disney sued me into the ground? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one of those situations where it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you can. And I actually think that here soon, that's going to be where video games go more, is it's going to be more on copywritten IP that's protectable IP. Because if it's not legally impossible to make a game about something, there's going to be so much, like the military simulation niche, I think, is about to reach astronomical levels of saturation, because other than the people who actually develop those firearms and actually have like rights to the design of the firearms themselves, which also doesn't last forever, like the AR-15 is and the AK-47, like, that's all public domain now. But any of those IPs, like, it's you're gonna have a bazillion, as Unreal Engine gets progressively easier and easier and easier to use. You're gonna have more and more games like that. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know. That's one of the reasons we made Operation Harsh Doorstop free, though, because we kind of looked ahead and we were like, well, you know, we could charge $40 and make a whole bunch of money in a short period of time, or we could just put something out there for free. So that way everybody could have something where, even if it is easy to make games, everybody could have one kind of like IP to kind of like collaborate on. I don't think that worked as well as I hoped, though, because now, I mean, I don't know if you guys have known, it seems like there's another tactical shooter that's going up for pre-orders and skins, you know, every friggin' 2 weeks now. But, you know,
it's not as bad as roguelites.
that's true.
Those are so heavily saturated,
Right.
And then everyone like, it's been pretty big the last couple months about.
I was kind of hoping
Souls-like one.
I was kind of hoping that after a certain saturation point, everybody would be like, okay, well, let's just make like an open source version of this game, and we can just make like one ultimate community made version that we can all enjoy. But that doesn't seem to be happening. It's just, it seems like the opposite of happening, where there's just more people making the same thing and trying to charge more money for it, but there's just less people playing each one. But I think that's because when you look at Steam, dude, I didn't realize how much money all those Steam games make. Like, you have like a $5 game and it's only got like 500 reviews, and it's like they made $200,000, and you're like, wait, what? Like, it's crazy. It's like insane. It's insane. So I think that there's a little bit of a ways to go before we see that market like truly saturate to a point, because you're still going to have people in, like, I don't know, Bangladesh, where they're like, well, I'll make a freaking, like, because if somebody, I remember when people used to be like, well, it takes like $300 million to make like Battlefield games. And it's like, obviously that's no longer the case, you know, and Squad took less money than it probably took Battlefield. And now you've got more, like, Ground Branch made less money than Squad. Now you've got, you know, us, we've only made our game for a couple $100,000. And it's getting to the point where even with us, it's like, dude, you know, we can't survive off the money we make. But you're going to have some company in like Bangladesh or something like that, or India or whatever, and they're going to say, well, we would happily make a Battlefield game if we only made like $50,000, you know, and it's just going to basically keep kind of like, you're just going to continue having more and more saturation, because there's always going to be a demographic that's, we're kind of going off track again, but yeah, whatever.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
It is an interesting conversation, though, and I think maybe the thing that makes people stand out in that type of world is creativity, where the barrier to entry is so low, but creativity, the ideas you have in your head that then you can use the AI as a tool, that's really goes from person to person, right? Nobody's gonna be able to have that idea that you have.
I want to agree with you so bad.
Flesh it out.
I want to agree with you so bad. I want to say, yes, that is true. And you have no idea how bad I want that to be true. But let me just put it this way, man. on my YouTube channel, I started making shorts, and those shorts started going viral. I put a lot of effort into making those shorts. I created this whole system where I could have like the guns like rotate and like all of this stuff, and like created this whole formula. I created this whole system how we make them. As soon as those started going viral, there were like 50, 100, 500 accounts on TikTok that were just stealing all of them and just reposting them. And ironically, they probably made more money than I did off of those short, especially since a lot of them are like, linking their TikTok shop or whatever. This is the biggest problem right now, man. The biggest problem is we live in the biggest age of IP theft. In fact, let me put it this way, dude. Let me put it this way. This is a problem. Did you guys ever what was that? It's funny. Okay, Unrecord. Do you guys know about the game Unrecord?
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's the is that the body cam one?
Yeah.
Well, so here's the funniest thing. All right. Literally, so that guy, that Unrecord guy, I followed him on Twitter. I saw the first video that he uploaded. He created that entire concept, right? Where he was like, "Oh, here's this thing that I made. Imagine this whole body cam thing." Dude, within a couple of months, there were 2 kids from France that took that entire concept and released a paid game
Body cam,
the exact same thing that used marketplace assets, and they profiteered off of his entire audience that he created. Basically, he created this whole concept where he put in all of this work and time to create this initial concept, and these guys came in and took that and beat him to market. And you want to know, here, I'll just say this. So it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. And that game, dude, that body cam game, right? It doesn't have vehicles. It's multiplayer only. Like, there's no, it's like the maps, at least, especially when they launched, like all of the maps were from the marketplace. It was the same marketplace asset that the other guy. Do you want to know how much money that game has made? Give me a guess.
2 mil, maybe.
That game, based on my calculations, has currently made anywhere from $30 to $60 million.
Holy fuck. That is ridiculous.
And it was just 2, because I met them. I know these guys. I'm not a big fan of them at this point because they kind of screwed us over on some things. But it was just 2 kids. 2 19-year-old kids saw this dude's thing on Twitter, created the exact same thing on Unreal Engine, threw it up with a bunch of marketplace assets, and got a bunch of influencers to all cover it. And they made anywhere from $30 to $60 million. Now, let me ask you this. Is that a $30 to $60 million game, in your opinion? And here's not from what I've seen. Well, I'll tell you this, it is, because that's how much it made. And that's the thing. We live in a time where the most profitable thing that anybody can do is just steal ideas. And that's kind of a difficult thing with us as well. Like, I'm working on a new project right now. Dude, I'm not going to freaking talk about that project for a second until we're already up. And that's unfortunately, and I think that really has gotten in the way, because in a perfect world, it's like, okay, let's all just kind of like shoot the shit and like, hang out and like create something creative, and then somebody else can iterate on it. Dude, right now, especially with AI, dude, because AI makes it so, I mean, you've got people that write bots that just like go onto your YouTube page. Now, I mean, you see all those Instagram like ads where they're like, I'm going to teach you how to make money. And it's like literally just setting up a bot to rip content off of the YouTube channels of famous people. It's like, dude, that's the society we live in right now. It's all theft, which I really think has undermined the spirit that game development was at least all about for me. Now, it's not all bad. I think that we basically just have to start kind of asking like hard questions. Like, when it gets to a point where every single person can make a game, right? When everybody can make a game. And we just start seeing these levels of saturation. Like, dude, you can go and look, like, hold up, Steam games released by year. Can I share my screen? Is that like,
Yeah,
Should be
sure.
able to.
I don't even know. Oh, I was asking like if that's even possible.
Yeah, it should be the there's a little button at the bottom there that's a screen with a plus sign on it, and you should be able to share that way.
Yeah, boy.
StreamYards isn't the best program, by the way. So
That's all good, dude. I like your all setup. I think it's,
if there's a problem, we blame it on StreamYards.
This
That's usually
is the number of games released on Steam by year.
oh shit.
10,000.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the next couple of years, this goes to 2024, right?
Yeah.
Dude, the next couple of years is going to make this look like nothing. And here's the funniest thing, dude. This is like 15,000 games that have been released. I guarantee, because it costs $100 for a single app on Steam. I wonder how much money Steam makes just selling the app credits where people want to release a game they never released. Dude, they probably make so much money off that. And then, hold up, let me see if I can let's see.
And then
Steam
how many of those games have
average
DLC? How
gameplay.
many of those?
That's true. That's true.
There's so much money there.
Okay. So here's the thing, and this is what's going on. This is the problem. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not a problem. So this, and this is up to 2019, right? There's one that was more recent. I need to find it. This is how much money on average the games that have been released on Steam makes. And this red bar is under $5,000 for the entire, like, and I feel like this is a good way to measure basically how many low effort games are being released on Steam. Because here it's like back in 2012, it's like, dude, if you're releasing on Steam, your game is going to be of high quality, right? Like you're putting in a lot of effort into that and it's going to be good. Now it's at the point where the vast majority of games, like by a huge margin, make under $5,000. But in the same way that there's like content creators that now spam AI videos to YouTube, and each AI video makes like less than a penny, but it doesn't matter because if you put up like 10,000 of them, then you get hundreds of dollars a day. I think Steam is going to be going through the same arc, where you're going to start having just a massive amount of games, but the vast majority of them are going to make very little money. And the real question is, like, I don't know, is that a bad thing? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure if you looked at the charts on YouTube of how many YouTube channels make like under $5,000 and how many are started. I mean, but nobody ever, you know, I don't think anybody of us would say that like not anybody should be able to start a YouTube channel. Like everybody should be able to start a YouTube channel. And it's kind of the same thing on Steam, but yeah. I don't know. I maybe that's something you guys can talk about in the future. Like if we see massive saturation of an industry where everybody is just copying each other and everybody is just spamming it, like, and creating games, how much of that is going to be a good thing? How much of that is going to be a bad thing? The good thing is game accessible. Like, I mean, Cream, you could make a video game about like, I don't know, you could call it like Cream Boy, and it would be like a little platformer and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, like
I could make my Super Meat Boy ripoff game I've been dreaming of.
That you'll be able to do. And there's lots of reasons why I think that's a good thing. It's like, you know, why wouldn't you be able to have that? Like if, you know, if somebody wants to make, I mean, that's what a lot of people use AI for now too. It's like, okay, if there's somebody that wants to make like a funny card for their grandma or, you know, like, or something like that. And I would actually say that a lot of the success for like AI is attributed to that kind of stuff where it's like, it's not like big corporations making an entire product with AI. It's just like, you know, your mom and dad messing around with it, or like, you know, my kid, you know, like he likes making like little stuff. And, you know, he's super into Roblox, right? And like Roblox is incorporating AI stuff into like their game development. Cause, you know, I love the fact that he can download the Roblox editor and make a stupid little, not stupid. Sorry. If you're watching this, Calvin, your game's not stupid, I swear. But you know, the fact that he's like a 9-year-old kid and he can download this and make like his first game and show it to me. And like, yeah, of course it's not a great game. Like give it to like some YouTuber like, this is trash shit. But it's like, it's a 9-year-old kid, you know, like
it's his first time, right?
Right. Like, are we gonna sit here and like go on a Facebook and sit there and like critique every single image that's like uploaded of like your mom? And I feel like that's kind of where games I think are gonna be headed, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. You're gonna get to a point where it's like everybody can make a game. everybody. Every single person will have the tools necessarily where if they want to make a game, they absolutely can do it. They don't even need a significant amount of skill. Don't get me wrong, people who have skills will be able to make even better games. But as opposed to 10, 20 years ago, where the skill gap to even get a functioning, playable anything like put together was like massive. Nowadays, it's not going to be like that at all. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of games that basically anybody can make, and they're just going to shuffle out. Is that bad? I don't know. That's something that I would honestly, I would just like give you that and then walk out of the room and just let you guys talk. Because I'm not even sure if I have an opinion yet. Because
that's a hard thing. It's kind of like, is it like the Wild West in the sense where, the Wild West was great. There was a lot of freedom you could have, but you could also get shot in the back of the head.
Right. Yeah.
So there's pluses and minuses,
right?
But
maybe there is no right answer. We just get to live in certain periods of history and enjoy how things are then, and then stuff changes, and we got to find the good things and the bad things.
Eventually, AI will get tamed. Like everything does eventually. It starts the internet. The internet is a lot different than what it was like 20 years ago.
That's true.
So
there's a big idea on
to a big explosion of something,
Yeah.
There's a big idea on mine as well, was getting a couple devs on who are like Vietnamese, very anti-AI, and seeing what their opinions are, but that'll be a future date. Something I noted.
I'm not against those people, honestly.
Yeah.
I always piss people off because I am the kind of person where I'm very hyper realist, right? Like I'm very focused on there's the way that I want things to be, and they're the way things are. And I always go towards trying to just accept the way things are. I mean, and that's one of the reasons when I started my YouTube channel, like making money from playing video games, my dad thought that was the dumbest thing ever. I had people that would make fun that like seriously would try to bully me. I didn't really give a shit, but like back in the day, that was like a laughable thing. That's like living in your mom's basement bullshit. What the fuck are you doing with your life trying to play video games for a living thing to do? Now I have parents that bring their kids to me asking me how their kid can be famous playing video games. And it's like, it's just hilarious to see how in such a short period of time you have these things change. And like, now there's a lot of anti-AI stuff. But in the same way where it's like, I always push into things that I kind of see as, because I remember talking to my dad and I was like, look, Dad, I'm sitting here looking at this paycheck that I made, and I'm sitting here doing the freaking math on the number of hours that I spent, building my online community. I make less money working at the actual job that I work at right now. And I just had to sit there and like run the numbers with it. I'm like, dude, I can go work for somebody else's corporation and make less than I can doing this. I get it. I know it's stupid playing video games for a living. I agree with you. That does not make any sense and it's dumb. But I am looking at the freaking numbers here, and for whatever reason, this is not as dumb as everybody thinks that it is. And I think AI is kind of here's the biggest problem. The biggest problem with God damn it. Ask me questions about OHDs before we go off on this rabbit hole. Is there anything?
So one of the big things you said was that modding compatibility.
Yeah.
The first one was like introducing it. How do you even implement that ability for users to mod your game?
Well, the craziest thing about anything related to games is there's a bazillion ways to implement everything. So everything has its own. Unity has its own ways. Unreal Engine has its own ways. If you make a game from scratch, it has its own ways. Now, Unreal Engine has, in many ways, a lot of native support for modifications. We still had to do a lot like a really obnoxious amount of work, quite frankly, in order to make it like moddable, and especially connecting that to Steam and having it so the mods automatically download. That is not stuff that Unreal Engine does out of the box. Like, there are some aspects that Unreal Engine has when it comes to, like, we utilize loading plugins. It's called the plugin system. But Unreal Engine out of the box does not have, like, click this checkbox and enable mod support. Now, there are some things like that. That's the biggest thing to somebody who isn't a developer, because you have a lot of people that are like, hey, I want this feature. And then a developer goes into Unreal Engine and it literally is a checkbox, and you can just checkbox and that feature's in. But then people will come back and be like, wow, you implemented that so fast. Can you implement this other thing? And then the developer goes in there and they realize there is no checkbox for that thing, and it's going to take a billion fucking hours to implement. But the person from the outside, they're like, well, why is this thing taking you so long? You implemented the other thing like really easily. And it's like, dude, none of this is standardized. Like, there is just, it's Unreal Engine is just a box of stuff. And some of that stuff is really good and it's complete. And some of that stuff doesn't exist at all. And mod support is one of those things where I wish I could say that Unreal Engine does just have a freaking checkbox to make. And I wish you'd think that would be something that Unreal Engine would have out of the box, being Unreal Engine a little bit more. And actually Unreal Engine 3, from what I hear, I never worked in Unreal Engine 3. Apparently, like, another thing that Unreal Engine 4 does not have, it does not have multiplayer replicated vehicle systems out of the box. It does not have that. Unreal Engine 3 does. And you'll notice if you look, there's loads more indie Unreal Engine 3 games that have 64 players and vehicles. Why? Because Unreal Engine 3 had that supported out of the freaking box. For whatever reason, when Unreal Engine 4 came out, they had like nothing. There was like no. Now, in the last couple of years, last like 5+ years, they actually have released a lot more stuff that make implementing vehicles in Unreal Engine much more feasible. But like when Squad first released, because I know all of the lead programmers from Squad. In fact, one of them worked on OHD. In fact, we're using his system in OHD. So the same system that powered Squad's vehicles, when he left Squad and worked for us, he made the same system for us inside of our, and he also, there was a Squad, for whatever reason, released, dude, oh my God, Squad released their vehicle system. I don't know why this happened. This was weird, because us and Squad, we don't, ever since they got bought by Tencent, it doesn't matter, because all of the people that we used to have beef with are gone. They got, like, bought out or whatever. They left. Back in the day in like 2016, 17, like, us and Squad hated each other. Like, they really had it out for us, because they knew that we were working on like something that was similar to them, and they did not like the idea of that at all. Especially since I was kind of like an influencer that was very well tied to Project Reality. So like if I was working on something that was a competitor to theirs and I had like this massive following, they were really scared. So I don't know. I got opinions on that, and it kind of pissed me off that they went after me as much as they did, instead of like trying to be helpful and like reciprocate, because I helped them. I made them a lot of sales when they asked me to like work for them and help them build their trade. That's a different conversation. But what happened is for whatever reason, the CEO of Squad, he had a lot of beef with one of the programmers, a bunch of the programmers. One of the programmers left, and I can't go into too much detail because I guess he signed an NDA, and a lot of the stuff that he told me, because I'll just say there was a legal fallout. There was a legal fallout between them and one of the other programmers. That programmer came and worked for us. I don't know I don't know what the reason for this is. I don't know if they just felt like being generous, or maybe they realized that since the programmer left, he was going to build the same thing for other people anyways, or like what. But there was like a period of, I think more than a year. I don't know. But there was a period where Offworld from Squad uploaded all of the code for their entire vehicle system to the Unreal Engine marketplace. Like the whole thing, like on purpose, like not like, oh, an accidental leak. Like the CEO of Squad, for a limited time, released all of the vehicle code on the marketplace for free. Mm-hmm. Now, the second they did that, we saw it, and I was like, add to cart. Like, I'm not going to not get that. So the first thing we did was we got it. a while after we got it, they took it down, and the CEO who uploaded that got sued by Squad, and he is no longer the CEO. But here's the funniest thing. They uploaded that, and because I bought it for free, like it's in my account, so I am now I have a license to it forever, and we're using that in Operation Harsh Doorstop legally. Like, so it's like I don't know, and nobody else can get it now. So like I'm one of the only people that has access to this because they uploaded their code to the marketplace, and then we were able to get a license for it. And then I guess a while later they decided that was a bad idea, sued the guy that did it. But everybody who had downloaded it and like added it to their account,
it's
my license.
Nothing sketchy on your
it's
legal
like
end, right?
Yeah, because in order for them to even put that on the Epic marketplace, they have to agree to like Epic's terms and all of that stuff. So it's like for me, like they can't sue me, like they'd have to sue Epic, and because as soon as they say, oh, like he's not allowed to use that, Epic's going to be like, well, did you put it up on our freaking marketplace where both of you agreed to our terms of service, and then he got it through that, and they're going to say yes, and it's like so there's lots of weird stuff like that. You look at Unreal Engine 3, it has certain features, it has certain functionality. There's a reason that all of those games made in Unreal Engine 3 have that functionality. Unreal Engine 4 has all of these features and functionality, but there's some things that are lacking. That's one of the reasons that there's so many Unreal Engine 4 games that are just like squad shooters with 16 players and no vehicles, because that's easy to make with Unreal Engine 4's like, and you'll notice like a lot of the games that have like vehicles and stuff, if you go down the rabbit hole of like connecting the dots, you'll find, because it's like with Squad, like the guys that made the vehicle system for Squad, like there's not very many people that know how to do that. So if you see like any other games and then you talk to the people and you find out it's the exact same people that make the exact same systems, there's not much of a surprise there. So the thing is that there's no when it comes to implementing mod support, when it comes to implementing any feature, it is always highly chaotic because it's highly dependent on what kind of features does that specific version of the engine have at that time. You know, what kind of people are working at Epic at that, because Epic has had certain talent that work on very specific systems, and then that talent leaves and you'll slowly see that system decay. Like, and they'll depreciate it eventually. And there's lots of stuff like that where it's like, you know, Unreal Engine 5.5, it's like I'll talk with my programmer and they'll be like, well, we know that they fired the guy that was working on like this very specific particle system. So it's like, now that particle system sucks, you know, and it used to be really, really great. I mean, I guess it's just like YouTube or anything like that. And I think when you start looking at things like that, a lot of stuff makes sense. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, like how much does it take to code this feature? Or how much does it take to do this thing? And it's like, dude, that is highly dependent. I mean, unless you were going to go straight back to like a freaking DOS, you know, computer and program the entire game engine from scratch. Unless you're doing that and you're like this hyper genius, which I know a handful of people that do that stuff, then the vast majority of what you're developing is going to be hingent on the tools and the systems and the stuff that you have available. And the most successful people that I've found in this industry are not, and this is going to sound kind of shitty, but it's true. It's like that body cam game, right? The people who are the most successful in this industry, I have found, are not like visionaries who have a very specific vision and then like do everything in their power to make that vision possible. The most successful people are people that look at the existing tools that they have and create a product with the things that they know already exist that are easy to put together. You know what I'm saying? So like with body cam, imagine if he was like, well, I'm not going to release body cam until I have flyable jets, right? Like then he never would have released and he wouldn't have been able to take advantage of that opportunity. But they went online, they saw a first person shooter on Twitter that had like a body cam, and they were like, hey, we know for a fact that Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5 not only has the ability to enable RTX and we can put this filter and like replicate that really, really fast, but we could easily make like a small scale 16 player game because Unreal Engine 5 supports like replication that could at least support that number of players out of the box. They don't have to do nearly as much code work or infrastructure work in order to make that possible. As opposed to something like Operation Harsh Doorstop, there's not very many other games like Operation Harsh Doorstop because Unreal Engine 4 just does not support those kinds of features out of the box. It has taken a massive, and I mean a massive amount of work in order, but that's because I'm stupid and I'm like a visionary, and instead of me looking at the tools that exist and then making a product around that and then selling that for $30, I have like a vision of what I know I want to achieve, and I don't care if it's possible or not. We're going to do everything that we can in order to create that thing. And that works if you have a vision that is extremely valuable. But I think, unfortunately, for Operation Harsh Doorstop, although not that I regret making it at all, I wanted to make a free first-person shooter game that had all of those features. Very passionate about that aspect. But the people who are like visionaries, like who have, the vast majority of them work for IPs that are like copywritten. Right. It's like, because if you're going to have this visionary, you know what a really good example of that is Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like, and there's so much detail in that and stuff, but those have like actors and like, those actors, like their identities are like copywritten and all of this stuff, like, and all of this. I mean, you saw, ChatGPT tried to like, replicate Scarlett Johansson. She sued the shit out of him and stuff like that. So I think, and that's why I think in the like this new Battlefield game, dude, they're going to struggle. Every single year going forward, they're going to struggle so hard. And the main reason is they're going to struggle is because Delta Force is the exact same thing and there's nothing they can do about it. If I were to go and remake Death Stranding right now with all of the exact same characters and all of the exact same stuff, which is what makes Death Stranding, I would get sued to hell. But, you were to remake an entire Battlefield game from scratch, nobody's going to do anything. And I think that is going to definitely have an impact on the industry. So yeah, I'm really good at ranting, aren't I? To answer your question that you asked me like a half hour ago, yeah, it's development is very much a messy bag of tools and systems where there's no straightforward process to really implement anything. It's all going to be very interdependent, all very, very different depending on the kind of tool sets. Like, honestly, dude, Godot, man, I think Godot is really cool. Did you not notice that Battlefield 6, they're using Godot for their, that was just hilarious. Kind of a red flag.
Notice that, really?
Yeah, they because they were like, Battlefield Portal, and we have our new editor. It's Godot. Like, you look at, so I don't know what they're doing there. And honestly, a little bit of a red flag, because it makes me wonder if they're cutting corners so much that they're just going to use freaking Godot and be like, there you go, there's your mod support or whatever it is. But I mean, we'll see. But the point is that something like Godot, there are certain types of games in Godot that you can make very easily. There are other types of games in Godot that are not very easy to make at all. But as the open source community continues to work on Godot and add more and more features and create more systems that make it easier to implement these different types of game mechanics, I think you're going to start seeing more and more games made on Godot. Have you guys been following Road to Vostok?
Yes.
He has.
Excellent. Yeah. Amazing case study for someone that has a very deep and also simultaneously broad knowledge of the full spectrum of game development, and has such a capability in that field that they can move over to something like Godot and develop all of that functionality from scratch. Another project that's very similar that I kind of get into it with the lead programmer on this every so often. And I'm not a big fan of microprose at this point, but After Conflict is another game that was developed entirely from scratch. This guy, well, maybe not entirely, but he's building like the entire code base from nothing. The guy is an absolute genius. He's kind of a butt sometimes, but he's a bona fide genius. And those are kinds of people that I think are worth following, because they're the kinds of people that have the mind that can, without even taking advantage of kind of like existing tool sets within Unreal Engine, like they can build an entire system from scratch, which is going to allow them, comparing that to something like Bodycam, like I don't think the developers of Bodycam could hold a candle to what the developer of Road to Vostok is able to do. Now, is Road to Vostok going to make as much money as Body Cam? I don't know. There's a big disparity there. Like, there's a big difference between how much talent somebody has and how much money somebody makes. That's definitely the case. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Some people just have good business acumen and stuff like that. But if you guys are ever interested in developing video games, or if anybody else is ever interested in developing video games, especially people just starting out, I think that's a good mentality to have, because it's like, look, do you want to make a game, or do you want to learn game development? Because ironically, there is kind of a difference a little bit. If your objective is like, I want to make a game, I don't care how that game is made, there's a game that I need to have made, then I would say learning the existing game engines and what they can and can't do is going to be really important, because then you might be able to find a path of least resistance where you don't have to learn as much, but you can still make that game that you want to make. Learning game development is almost kind of a completely different track, because it's like, if you want to make something entirely from scratch and learn all of the underlying mechanisms to how everything works, you can do that. But the question is you better have a vision where learning all of that and then employing that is worth it. Because if you're going to put all of this work into building an entire system from scratch that somebody can just bang out in Unity or Unreal Engine, or here soon bang out with AI, as much as, whether the art and the soul and all of that stuff is kind of inconsequential when it's a free market. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like people are going to buy what they're going to buy. This is just like YouTube. People can sit there and complain about AI all they want, but people are watching those freaking Yeti videos. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's the reality of the situation, dude. People are watching those Yeti videos, and nobody that's watching those Yeti videos are sitting there thinking about, does this have soul? They're just, stupid Yeti. Like, that's all they care about.
There's one dude who's really high who's just like, what is life, while watching the Yeti videos. But yeah, no, that is something that's interesting. I have one more question about Operation Harsh Doorstop. Sure. Kind of a very open-ended question. But okay. So if you were to, with all the knowledge you have now, right? Yeah. Make this game like start over, right? What would you do differently? Not assuming that you're starting over today, you're starting over then when you continued that when you started development, but now you have all the knowledge that you do now. What would you do different?
Besides put all of my money in Nvidia stock? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we'd all do that.
I'll tell you what, I think it's highly dependent on who on the team you ask. Because for me, one of the biggest roles that I have is I orchestrate the people that make this game. There are lots of things that I do, but there is not a single first-person shooter, although I think the closest thing is Road to Vostok at this point, that is made by one person. So all of these, again, like, I have animators and like I have all sorts of people that work for me. And if I'm being completely real, man, this is, you know what? No, this is going to be the most honest answer I can give. If I'm going to be completely real about going back in time and like purely from like a cost benefit analysis, the only thing that I would do differently now, that of course I wouldn't even know how to do in the beginning, is I would know who to bring onto the team, who to trust, and who not to trust. I mean, that's really all it is, because that has been the biggest thing. It's like, I mean, again, until you get to a point where, because there's not a single person on the Operation Harsh Doorstop team, myself included, that can make the entire thing by themselves. There's not a single person. We're all a team. So it's one of those situations where it's like, since there's no way for that to happen, we all basically have to choose who we want to work with, because we have to work with somebody in order to make the game happen. And I think if I could go back, I know exactly who I would hire, and I would keep if I had the ability to do that, I would be able to keep the team extremely lean and extremely small and just focus entirely on knocking out all of the features that now, in retrospect, we know. Like, one of the biggest problems is knowing which features take the most time, because ahead of time you don't know, right? Like, implementing mod support took way more freaking time than we thought it was going to, you know. But in retrospect, if I could go back in time, not only would I know exactly the people that I need to hire and who I can trust, but I would know exactly what features are going to take what amount of work. And it would be much easier for me. Yeah. I think if I could go back, I would hire 2 people. I would hire one of my lead engineers and I would hire my generalist. And I would not fuck with anybody else for like a year. I would create an extremely small and focused minimum viable product. Instead of going more wide with like content, I would create like a single freaking map and have a single freaking faction where it was just a highly detailed, functional, small prototype. And then from there, I would slowly build out the team and I would roadmap out the features. I mean, honestly, basically just doing the exact same thing that we did, but just with the power of having more knowledge of knowing which features to tackle first and which people to hire and which people to not. Because yeah, it really comes down to people. It really is. It's all the freaking people. Because we have had bad people that have really thrown wrench it, and I like do nightmare stories, like people that go crazy and off the rails, and they start going on a Discord and posting like porn everywhere and trying to like stalk people, like just crazy gamers, man. I don't know what it is. This game develop. I mean, I don't know if you saw like there was that one guy, the guy that was making that Vietnam game or whatever, and he used to work at OWI for like years. I bet they are kicking themselves for hiring him. And then he went to jail for like multiple accounts of rape and stuff like that. And it's like you've got a lot, dude. And we've run into a lot of crazy, in some cases like scary criminal people. And when you're developing video games, especially on the freaking internet, that is, I would say, one of the biggest concerns. So setting up a system to like screen people that you're going to hire, setting up systems to like background check the people you're going to hire, setting up systems to test and make sure that the people you're going to hire actually know what they're doing is probably the most important thing that any development team can do, period. I think one of the biggest problems that I had when I started Operation Harsh Doorstop, it was like, everybody come in, let's have a party. Like bring it, let's all go, let's all have fun, and as much as I want that to work, like again, I want that to work, like that's what Operation Harsh Doorstop is all about. Please, everybody come in, let's have this be communal. It really unfortunately doesn't, because of the people that are just like little like, I don't know, like planted bombs or stuff, like just explode and they go crazy. And it's very difficult. So like Hell Let Loose. Hell Let Loose was made by an extremely lean, small team that knew each other extremely well. You know what I'm saying? It was like, freaking I'm trying to think of a good, like the Beatles like level of tightness, like just a group of people. They didn't know anybody else. They didn't need to know anybody else. They didn't need to fuck with anybody. They had everything they needed with like a very small group of people, and they killed it. They came out of nowhere and made Hell Let Loose, and they're making their next game now, and nobody could touch them. Nobody could figure it out. So yeah, I mean, if I had any advice to a development team, it's like, dude, the people that you pick, and the effort that you put into making sure that you pick the right person. And I mean, it's not a lottery. Like, you can put in work to like interview and test and check and do all that stuff, is the most important thing that you can do. The most. And that is one of the hardest things to get right, because some people, I mean, again, people lie, people steal, people try to trick you into, thinking that they're a certain type of person. You don't figure out that, they're the kind of person to do some crazy unhinged thing until like 2 years later, and then they have like a breakdown or whatever. It's hard to sift through those people, but like after you've done that, after you've sifted through those people and you've found the ones that are good, that is the gold mine. That's the most profitable thing that you could do, is finding that group of people that you work with really, really well, and then just honing in that relationship. Yeah, I wish I could say anything else, but yeah, I mean, that's really the most important thing.
No, it was a good answer.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the big things you was mentioning was from what I see with first-person shooters, it's like 6v6s, like the CS:GOs or the Valorants, or sometimes it pushes it to 12v12. What I've always wanted more of is larger maps, larger servers, like the Battlefields, like the Operation Harsh Doorsteps. I played it today. 64-man servers. A big question of mine is, where are the Planetside 2s with 2,000-man servers? How is it you're able to create those larger scale conflict maps with more players involved on servers, whereas some people just always scale back?
Yeah. So I'll say this. You're right. And I've thought about this a lot. Because Planetside 2 is one of those like interesting enigmas. So I'm gonna say this. So there was honestly, sometimes I wonder if it's like some kind of conspiracy. Because dude, Planetside 2 is like the only freaking game that has done that. And there was another product called Spatial OS made by a company called Improbable. And I worked with them very closely for a while. And they were basically creating a system that was identical to Planetside 2. So any indie developer could use it and make the equivalent of Planetside 2. And what happened is they didn't release their pricing for a while. And then when they did release their pricing, we were like, there's no way in hell this is going to financially work because this is so insanely expensive. And you'll notice, I don't know, I mean, you can look into it. Basically, every single Spatial OS game that they made failed because they just couldn't afford it. But you know what's funny? They're doing just fine. And they're doing just fine because the last time I talked to them, the main reason they got out of games is because they got this absolutely astronomical multi-billion-dollar contract to simulate and optimize the entire electrical grid of London. I don't know. I have no fucking idea. And I think the thing is I that's why I'm saying I wonder if it's a conspiracy, because it might be one of those things where it's like, it's not that it's impossible. It's just, it's so complicated that anybody that actually has the ability to do that, the first thing they do is not make fucking video games. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, it's so complicated and it's so intensive and it's so, rare that it's not that people can't do it. It's just the people that can do it have much better paying jobs doing things that are significantly more valuable to the world than making video games, which sucks because I love video games, but I think that's how it is. And I mean, the short answer is, the way that you would implement something like that is you would have to create some kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's other games that have done it, like the sharding system and stuff like that, where you can basically create like little pockets. And it's very complicated because, in Operation Harsh Doorstop, we're more or less kind of like, we're running everything on a server, and then all of the different clients like know where all of the other client positions are. And they more or less know all of the different positions of all of the different players on the server. But the problem with that is, that's why you can't go past 64, because it's like every single time that you add another person past 64, it's not like adding a little bit more of CPU power and bandwidth. It's like exponential, right? Because it's like 64 players have to know 64 player positions. So you are multiplying 64 by 64. So it's like every single player is receiving data from every other single player position, right? Because that's how multiplayer games work, which means that the server has to send 64 player positions to each person across 64 people. If you change that to 128, now you have 128 players that you have to be spending 128 positional information to every single one. That's an exponential curve. And the only way to get around that, is to create a system where you basically localize the replication across. So it's kind of like a micro server thing. So it's like, and that's what Star Citizen does. So it's like Star Citizen doesn't have just like one single server running the entire solar system, right? It's like each, or another good one is even Sea of Thieves does this, because you'll know Sea of Thieves is just like 1 billion people playing the game, right? But you only see like 5 at a time, right? And the reason you only see 5 at a time is because it controls like which players are in which server. And the same with Star Citizen. Like Star Citizen, if you're on Mars or whatever, like you're not like on the same server on the same map as other players. You're like on a completely different server. Planetside does the same thing, just on a smaller scale. And they have again some kind of proprietary system that I'm not going to pretend to know about, because if I knew about it, I'd be able to make it, and they wouldn't have as much money as they do. But they have some kind of proprietary solution that they must have cracked a long time ago, where they can create these like localized pocket servers that you can travel between. So that way, if they have 2,000 players, instead of having to send 2,000 player positions to every single player across 2,000 players, they only have to send like 100 player positions to each player within each localized area. You know what I'm saying? Because like I think if you really wanted to crash, like I know that this is the case for World War II Online. So I remember I was talking to World War II Online. Have you guys ever seen World War II Online? It's very old, super old game, still alive to this day, but is the only thing that is as close to Planetside 2 as Planetside 2. It's like the only other thing. And I remember talking to him before I knew as much as I know now, and I still don't know nearly as much as I should know, because there's more. But when it comes to networking, I was talking to him, and I was like, because we were trying to run an event. And I was like, man, I love this whole concept of like Planetside 2. Like, you guys are one of the only people that have created like a Planetside 2 style system. And I was like, dude, I would love to do an event where we could try to get like 2,000 people to all attack a single town. And he was like, oh, well, you can't do that. It'll crash everything. And I was like, oh, wait, what? I was like, but you have like 2,000 people playing right now. And he's like, yeah, we have 2,000 people spread across 200-kilometer squared radius, because he was like, so if you have low player density, if you have 2,000 players on this system that has like this sharding system, and all of the players are spread out from one another, you don't need to inform. Like, if there's somebody, like, let's say you have a map that is the size of the United fucking States, right? Like, if there's somebody in Kentucky and somebody in California, you as the server don't need to send the position of the person in Kentucky to the person in California, because they're not going to see each other. Right. And that's the only way that something like Planetside 2 works, or even World War II Online works. But the problem is that, ironically, even though that they have this system that kind of like simulates like larger numbers of players, if you were to take all of that players in that space and then condense them in a single area, so that way you're basically increasing the server load for that single localized area, it'll have this, you'll start having the same problems that you would have in, say, Operation Harsh Doorstop, where you were to like load up 200 players in a single server, because you're basically doing the same thing. You're taking all these players and putting them. Now, Planetside 2, I think, has done even like they've done some crack stuff. I would say one of the first things that they do, Planetside 2 has like very simple player controllers. So like they have like very simple movement and very simple, like there's a lot of things. I think one of the reasons they do that is to keep the replication, like the multiplayer, like the amount of data per player, down to as little as physically fucking possible. Right. Like I don't think on Planetside 2 you're gonna have like a super advanced ballistic system with like, bullet penetration and stuff like that. Like they've been very clever to try and optimize things to a point where things are as simple as physically possible. Because in addition to the fact that Planetside 2 is probably using some kind of like sharding system or like localized network system, I don't know. They definitely have also done, because dude, I have definitely seen like single localized areas in Planetside 2 with like 500 players. Now, I have not gone in and like tested to see like what the ping is, or to see like what the server load like, but like again, the fact that they've been able to, even not only can they have like thousands of players across a large area, they are definitely able to have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players in a single small area. How do they achieve that? I mean, other than the stuff that I said, which is like some cracked optimization and some other things, I don't know. That's probably.
It makes a whole lot more sense now why the big map is split up when you look at it into tiles.
Yes.
Dozens or
and I
hundreds of
actually
different
wonder,
tiles.
from a gameplay standpoint, from a game design standpoint, I bet they designed that on purpose to make sure that all of the players, because I bet because I also bet that Planetside 2, I bet they pay out the ass. Because like with Spatial OS, I know that that's expensive. Planetside 2 is also probably expensive, but Planetside 2 is a subscription-based game that also has microtransactions and stuff like that. So it's expensive to run those servers, but they're probably still getting by, just because of like, I don't know, profit margins as it's working. But with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if if they had more players in a single centralized area, I bet that server bill goes up. I bet they pay. I bet there is an incentive financially to design the game that intentionally spaces players out, because the more spaced out the players are, the lower their server bill is. And if you were to, yeah,
this would explain why there's 3 different factions, because then you're fighting a
not just
war.
3 different factions, but all of those different frontline points, right?
Exactly,
like you have all of these different areas that intentionally spread the players out. I bet if they designed the game on purpose to have it so everybody was fighting around a single point, I bet. Dude, I wouldn't go as far to say that the servers would crash. Honestly, actually, I bet they would. I bet if you had, I mean, I don't know, dude. I want to look that up on YouTube now. I guarantee you the Planetside community. You know what? I'm going to ask my best friend, ChatGPT, because he's better than Google now. And I'm going to see, can you do a search and see if there are any recorded instances of players collecting more than 1,000 players into a single area on Planetside 2, and if so, were there any reported issues with the playability of the game when that occurred? I mean, that's one of the best things about ChatGPT is it's literally just a free library, as long as you use it right. Yeah, here we go. So January 24th, 2015, over 1,000 players battled simultaneously on a single server, setting a Guinness World Record. An unofficial peak of 1,283 players participated in a single battle driven by the escalation update. While these historic peaks showcase Planetside 2's capability, player accounts and reports confirms performance issues once large populations gather. After the 2022 anniversary battle, the server reportedly crashed under the load of 1,530 players. During low population periods, forced mid-fight zones were used to stabilize gameplay. Yeah, so I think like it seems like the general, it seems like there's around 1,000 players for a single map, and those players are typically spread between around 100 or 64 to 100 in each localized area. And if you have too many of them coalesce in a single area, it can create server issues where the server will just shut down. So yeah, but those are the kinds of things that people don't know about. It's weird, dude. Now I will say one of the ways that you can get around that, which you guys need to be keeping an eye on, I guess, is like, well, you don't have to be keeping an eye on. Multiplayer replication is basically like having a single computer, but everybody is separated by miles, and there's just literally the limitation of physics. Like if you were to let's put it this way, if you were to have everybody, like 1,000 people all setting up like a LAN tournament on Planetside 2, you would probably be able to much more easily get those number, like that number of players in a single area without it crashing. Because literally the problem is not necessarily like, because I mean, I don't know, dude, there's lots of games out there where you can, I mean, you play like, I'm trying to think of one. What's that RTS game? Not totally accurate battle simulator, but there's like another one where you can have like a
Ultimate Epic.
Yeah, that one. You can have like a
UEBS, yeah.
But that's all 100% single player. So like as long as you're like doing that inside of a single player environment, then you're fine. But there's not really any difference between a single player game and a multiplayer game where everybody is in the exact same building. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't know, dude, if we ever happen to like crack, you know, some quantum internet or something like that where you can cut ping down to 0, then in theory you could have like 1 billion players on a single area and it would be fine. But the biggest issue is the exponentially compounding latency that occurs when you have all of these different players and you have to be like sending data in terms of bandwidth across long. Are you ready to go, baby? My wife is sitting here eyeing me because we have to go to a business meeting with some.
We can start wrapping this up then.
Wrapping up, yeah,
man. But I love talking to you guys so much. It's never.
It's
I'm literally about to go hoarse actually because I was tracking for my music project earlier, like the Jahari stuff earlier. So this combined with that, I'm just gonna lose my voice here soon. Yeah, I don't know. So, any other questions?
Nos, I'll let you finish up with any questions you got.
Cream. No. There was other stuff, but it would take us another hour to get there, and I don't think any of us have got that time.
I can touch on it, and we can maybe reschedule. Like, what's the other stuff you wanted to ask? And I can give
the major one is I played the game. Me and Cream have played the game. We had a bit of fun. We had a fair bit of fun doing that. Okay. One of the things I really liked on the aspect is the simulation style of like platoon or company attacks, where it was mostly just suppressive fire. Like from iron sights or red dots, you aren't going to see these enemies from a distance. Yeah. With optics and scopes, you can single out a guy that's out of cover and stuff like this and shoot him.
Yeah.
But it was very kind of like simulation style, realistic in that sense. How did you go? Did you have that in mind? Because in like a Battlefield game, you can still see their silhouettes clear as day from like 200 meters. Whereas in Operation Harsh Doorstop, it's a lot more. The trees are speaking Vietnamese, and you can't see the guys before they get you.
Well, I would say a lot of that probably has to do with Unreal Engine itself, and also just because there's a lot of things that I think are emergent. Like, it's not like we were like, man, I can't wait to make it so people can't like see each other or stuff like that. Unless you're talking about from like a UI standpoint, because I know in Battlefield you can like highlight the silhouette of like players and stuff like that. And we actually, there's somebody created a mod where that happens, where it's like you can like mark units and stuff and they show up. But I know that for a fact, like we all came from the Project Reality kind of like community and stuff like that, and there was also like in like Arma, and things like that. So I definitely think that there's like a big push in order to kind of create like minimalistic UI and make it so we're just going to create all of the foliage and everything and try to have the maps be as realistic as possible. And like like when you throw a bunch of players that have camo that are designed to like hide in trees, and then you put a bunch of trees, it's like, well, I guess it's not like we designed the camo to do that. It's just the camo that we're basing the actual game on. It's like it's designed to make you be able to hide in that specific type of foliage. So yeah, I think a lot of that, it's like it's not really a design decision. It's just emergent based on the materials and the assets and the weapons and the not costumes, like the uniforms, all of that stuff that we're putting in. And yeah, I think that's just kind of a naturally occurring thing, which is cool. I mean, I guess it means we did our job right if it's like kind of similar to how it would be in real life. But yeah, and I think we enjoy it that way. There are some people that kind of like want to push us to be a little bit more Battlefield-y, and we definitely want to like facilitate that from a modding community standpoint. So it's like, hey, if you want to put up a custom server that's like super Battlefield-y, by all means do it. But yeah, I think our focus will always be making sure that the game is a little bit more, tradition, like not traditional, more like a little bit more realistic, not overly realistic, but yeah, accessibly realistic. So
yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, that was the conversation, hour and 34 minutes. That's pretty good. Answered a lot of questions I had. And Cream, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, hopefully you'll edit me not rambling too much and keep me a little bit more.
No, but it was all interesting. We'll leave it all in because it was super interesting. I mean,
I enjoy having these conversations. Yeah, there's a lot. It's man, there's the next couple of years, dude. There's just gonna be so much happening. It's all gonna be interesting. But yeah, hopefully.
I feel like we'll have to down the road set up another interview with you and talk specifically about
AI and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting up a video probably later today that's going to show people how to. Dude, I'm bracing for the hate. It's going to happen. But yeah, me and my team, we've been building a system where you can just type in a single sentence and it will create an entire first-person shooter game based on what you ask it to make. And it's like the problem is like I said, because it's like I almost want that to not be possible, but it is. And it's like one of the reasons that we kind of wanted to set it up. And not only is it possible, especially like once you start learning enough about AI and you start putting stuff together, it's like it's not only possible, it's fairly easy. And I think, and here's one of the biggest issues. I know there's a lot of anti-AI people, and I know why they're anti-AI. There's two aspects. First off, I think they're afraid of being replaced or having kind of like that higher level of competition. But that necessarily isn't by itself an excuse to hate AI. The other excuse that is, in my opinion, valid is it's copying other people's work. Like it's just straight up like taking people's work and stealing it. But here's the issue with that. Artificial intelligence, if it is copying somebody else's work, like OpenAI, like training their stuff on stuff that they don't have like the copyrights to, that's not AI's fault. That's the corporation doing that. And the reason I say that is because here in the coming years, right now we're still in the early phases of AI where you have all of these companies that are taking shortcuts and are like stealing and kind of being scummy. But over the next couple of years, there are going to be companies that are going to release AI models that are 100% trained on legally sourced material, like open source MIT licensed code, open source MIT licensed models, open source MIT licensed art. There's more than enough of all of that online to train a model. And what's going to happen is, and it's funny, I put up a poll and I said, if there was an AI that consisted only of legally sourced MIT licensed data and it was still able to do all of the same things, would you guys still hate it? And there was like 30, I mean, most of the people said no, but there's still like a 30%, that said yes, like it should be illegal. And it's like, dude, here soon, if we make an AI that is 100% based on legal material, that's just a tool at that point. Like you can be mad at it. You can be mad at it. Like you can be mad at it all you want. But if you're going to be mad at that, you might as well also be mad at Nanite. Like Nanite just replaced all of these jobs. That's not even AI. That's just, you might as well be mad at like Unreal Engine 5.7 instead of 5.7 because they're going to add stuff. It's going to replace jobs. There's going to be an animation system that's going to render people's job obsolete. There's going to be, or, people saying the whole like, oh, it's going to be AI slop. And it's like, because that's going to happen. We're going to put out, there's going to be game development AI. And in the same way that there's been a bunch of like AI videos that are just going to start coming out, there's going to be a bunch of AI games and stuff like that. And people are going to be like, oh, but it's all slop. But it's like, dude, Unreal Engine existing at all and being available to the public has also inherently, even before AI, created a whole bunch of slop, human slop. Right. And you see people complain about that. They're like, I hate the fact that Unreal Engine is public because you have all of these bad, low effort games that are being made. And it's like, yeah, but like, is that illegal? Like, would you really use that as an argument to put things back into the box and say, okay, let's not make Unreal Engine publicly available anymore. Let's not make Unity publicly available anymore. And it's like, are we really, Unreal Engine, 100% legal product. Unity, 100% legal product. And here soon, a lot of the AI that's going to be coming out, and it's all going to be 100% legally created and trained. Are we really going to say, well, I don't like the fact that it makes it easier to make games because now there's going to be more games out there, and I don't like that. And it's like, I get it. I get what your problem is. I know, like, you Steam and all that stuff, you got a bunch of crap games on Steam, but like, I mean, I don't know. I'm an American. The whole point of America is like freedom and all of this stuff. Are we really going to say, well, we want to take away people's access to these entirely legal, entirely free tools that allow you to make stuff easier because we don't like the fact that people can make stuff more easily? And it's just something where it's like, again, training AI on copywritten material and like stealing people's work, I also hate that. And I hate the fact that there's so many companies that are basically like doing that and getting away with it. But I think a lot of people are confusing people using AI for crime with the fact that all like, and then thinking that all AI is inherently crime. It would be like if somebody used Unreal Engine to like make a scam game. That does not make all Unreal Engine games inherently scams, right? Like because there's like, just because somebody uses a gun to rob a bank doesn't mean everybody who owns a gun is a bank robber, like, and I think that in the coming years, not only is AI going to continue accelerating where it's going to get crazy and it's just going to be able to do stuff that is scary, and very, it's going to enable people to do a lot of cool stuff. But I think people in general are going to have to really grapple with the moral compass of, I don't even know, just the moral compass of like, what are they actually against when they say that they're against AI, and what things related to that are actually legally viable to be against, right? Like, I don't like that AI is stealing work. Okay, you might actually be able to file a lawsuit and win that. Disney's doing that right now. But if you say, oh, I don't like AI because it makes stuff easier to do, even though the AI is like, not trained on illegal works, you can file all the lawsuits you want and try to take that AI down in the same way that you could file lawsuits against Unreal Engine because you hate the fact that Unreal Engine makes game development easier. Like, it's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you're not going to win those lawsuits, right? Like, it's just, so yeah, that's going to be the question. That's going to be the question over the next couple of years. Hey, there are these tools that are out there that are entirely legal to use and make it possible to make games extremely rapidly. How do we feel about this? Well, I think it should be outlawed. You can't outlaw it, because if you outlaw it, you're also outlawing like everything else that makes things easier, because it's not. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. It's a question for sure.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's a hard.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Thanks for coming on. Is there anything? Well, if you want to plug yourself, what you got coming up, Operation Harsh Doorstop. No,
we'll put the link. We'll put the link.
We're going to put the link.
Yeah, we will put the link to your video that you were talking about. That's going to come out today. This video is going to come out after that.
Sure.
So we will have that link for anyone who's interested in the description.
It was a Fiverr. Basically, what I did is I was using our system that we built to create prototypes, and then we hired people on Fiverr to take those AI prototypes and like turn it into a full-fledged product, just to kind of like show the viability of this kind of system. It's not public yet, but we'll probably have it.
By the time this is up here, it'll be public. So we will make sure to put that link in the description. So anyone who is interested in that, myself included, I'll go and watch it there. And
in the video, in the game that I create, that I show because what we've done is we've actually created a system that can go to Sketchfab. Do you guys know what Sketchfab is?
No.
Oh, you should check out Sketchfab at some point. It's pretty cool. You probably have seen it. You just didn't know that it was called this. Sketchfab is basically it's a site where it's just models. It's like GitHub for models, kind of. Not really. I mean, a little bit. That's all it is. So, dude, we can make an AI game development system that goes onto Sketchfab, sorts by MIT licensed, and makes an entire game out of legally licensed assets. And that's in the video that I make. All of the content, the first person gun, the map, and everything were created by actual people that uploaded it to Sketchfab and just made it MIT licensed. So yeah, that's the thing, because that's what I really want to focus on, because I don't want people to say, oh, well, like, this is theft, or like, oh, you're stealing stuff. So all of my videos going forward, I'm going to be like, I am using systems that are all not taking people's work, or if it is taking people's work, it's work that was licensed legally to be allowed to be taken. Like, if you're going to upload your code to GitHub and slap an MIT license on it, you can't complain if somebody is going to, like, that's the whole point of that, right? It's to make a place where you can have people take that and use it for other stuff. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on over the next couple of years, because I do 100% get that AI is stealing work from people, and I don't like that either. But the problem is that once we train AI to a point on the actual MIT license stuff, it's going to end up having all the exact same capabilities, which is then going to be like, well, okay, if we have the ability to train an AI to do all of this stuff, like if we train an AI on all of these things that are copyright free, right? Like all of it, it's all legally trained, but then it does have the ability to make new stuff that is like, and it meets the same capabilities as like an actual person, like, that's not copyright infringement anymore. Like, that's literally, it's just making stuff legally. So that's going to be my 100% focus of the couple of years. And I know that people are going to try and hate on me anyways, because I think they're like, but I don't know. You know me, Cream. I always get myself into these scenarios where it's like, factually I'm correct, but everybody's pissed off anyways, and I always
that sounds like my life.
I have to walk this freaking line where it's like, but it, like, if you're mad at me, but like, in order for me to be wrong all of these things that you take for like, you know, for granted, either like legally or like content, what you would have to abandon all these principles, you know, and that's, oh God, that's going to be the next couple of years. All right. I got to go. Hey, it's a pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you guys. Yeah. Keep me in the loop. I'd love to see this video. And yeah, we'll talk again soon. Sound good?
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you to everybody for watching. And until next time, we will see you later.